Colonel, first, it's great to meet you. To start with, you work in Jersey, you have New England ties. What was your perception of the Massachusetts State Police before you first came here and took the job?
I've had the opportunity to work alongside the Mass State Police for the last 20 to 30 years. I've worked cases alongside troopers from the Massachusetts State Police. My impressions and my experience were always that the Massachusetts State Police were known and had a reputation of being exceptional law enforcement officers, women and men with the highest caliber of integrity, competence. That was my experience, that was my perception coming into this job.
You come in with a law enforcement perspective. What do you think the general public's perception of the Massachusetts State Police is?
I think that particularly in recent years, based on specific incidents, based on some of the issues and the scandals that the Massachusetts State Police have gone through, the public trust, the public confidence here in the Commonwealth has decreased, certainly.
You look at you talked about the scandals, some of the things that have happened. Is a culture change crucial for the state police under your leadership?
Absolutely. Yes, I think that a culture change for the Mass State Police is appropriate in this moment. I think that here in the Mass State Police, we understand the moment, and I think that the women and men from the rank and file all the way up through the command staff understand that as we go forward, we need to change. We need to adapt.
What is culture? How would you define it, and how will you change it?
Culture is the norms and the values of the agency, and the ability for the women and men who work in the agency to adapt to those norms. And I believe that the Massachusetts State Police has and should and will, under my leadership, adapt the norms which are built upon the best practices on national excellence, built upon things that are meaningful in law enforcement, which are integrity and honesty, but most importantly, competency.
And those were lacking prior to your arrival here.
Well, I think that in any organization, we always need to have an appetite to do better. That we need to have a culture where we reject the status quo, where through everything that we do, we look at each operation, we look at each investigation, and we then take away from it and say what worked, what didn't work. Where we are doing well, let's replicate that.
Was that not done enough in the past, do you think?
I think that any agency can look itself, particularly law enforcement over the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, can honestly look at themselves retrospectively and say we in law enforcement across the country need to do a better job at calibrating ourselves every day so that we meet the needs and the expectations.
Let's talk about a couple of the scandals that have gone on recently, including the death of recruiting Enrique Delgado-Garcia. He died during a boxing training exercise at the academy. Any update on that investigation that you could share? We are eagerly awaiting the results of that investigation. That investigation is being conducted, rightfully so, by the independent counsel. We've been working with that counsel to ensure that we are cooperating, that we're giving that body anything that it needs from the Mass State Police, and we, as well as the Commonwealth, as well as the public, but most importantly the family, I think all share a common goal, which is to learn and get the results of the investigation, and we certainly look forward to that. And the state police will be transparent in sharing whatever they have to share based on the outcome of that investigation. Yes, transparency. From the day that I got sworn in, and through our actions in my first 10 months, we are being extraordinarily transparent, and we will continue to do so. I would just point to the fact that, independent of what the investigation is, we've also, on our own, hired the International Association of Chiefs of Police to do an assessment of our state police academy. So changes are going to result out of what happened there? Yeah, changes have already started to happen. For example? So we took this class. There's a class that was scheduled to go in, which would have been the first class under my tenure. Instead of having one large class, we made a change to that and broke that large class into 2 cohorts. And the goal was to reduce student to instructor ratio
But really the goal is to allow us to have the ability to, at a very granular level, evaluate what is occurring at the academy so that we can make changes.
So I think the transparency for a lot of people here is the big thing. You go back 15 years ago, there was a group called IRE, Investigative Reporters and Editors, I'm sure you heard, and they gave the Massachusetts State Police the Golden Padlock Award as the most secretive public agency in the United States, and they said in part, Massachusetts State Police habitually goes to extraordinary lengths to thwart public records requests, protect law enforcement officers and public officials who violate the law, and block efforts to scrutinize how the department performs its duties. Granted, 10 years ago, I get that, but can you guarantee residents in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that the state police will be much more transparent and things like that are part of the past?
Yes, I am entirely committed to being a very transparent organization. We are a public entity. We report to the Commonwealth. We answer to the citizens of the Commonwealth. And I think in the first 10 months, I think that through our actions, you've seen a noticeable increase in us being transparent. And I would highlight the fact that we've just announced this excellence initiative. We aren't announcing that initiative as if it's an end game and this is the solution for all of our issues. This is a plan. But the reason why we are out there talking about it is because we want feedback.
All right. Obviously, the Karen Reed case was big. I know that the first trial did not happen on your watch, but Michael Proctor, who was part of that, he's now appealing to the Civil Service Board after being fired. Would you ever welcome Michael Proctor back to the Massachusetts State Police?
Well, he is entitled to his process, and I respect the fact that that process is, and I can't speculate on a potential decision point on what the Massachusetts State Police would do. Given that. But what I can tell you is my actions have been loud and clear. I stand behind the decision that we made, and I believe that it was a righteous decision.
He has claimed in his appeal that he's being treated differently than other troopers who've been disciplined. Do you think that's fair? Do you see anything behind his comment there? How do you respond when you hear that?
Well, I think in this moment, I'm very aware of the fact that I'm the first outside colonel. Right. I'm the first individual that has taken this position. I have not been here for more than a year. I'm only in my 11th month. I think the reason I'm here is to be as objective as I can, to call balls and strikes for this department, and I respect the fact that there's precedents, and I certainly respect those arguments. But since I've been here, I have and will continue to make decisions that I believe are in the best interest of the Massachusetts State Police and the Commonwealth.
It'd be difficult for him to have any effective role on state police, given everything we've learned about the case and all of the notoriety around it, don't you think?
I would have to wait for the civil service decision before I would make any decisions.
I want to follow, I'll get back to that in a second, but I do want to follow up on one thing you did say. Being an outsider, I mean, you didn't come up through the ranks. So is that a positive or a negative? I mean, fresh look, yes, but then it's like, well, he's not one of us. So how has that worked out for you so far?
Yeah, I coming into this job, very respectfully, I understood that as the first outside colonel, that brought with it a lot and a very unique set of challenges. I had to get to know the culture. I did not have the benefit, and I thought that would be a bit of a hurdle that I would overcome. But in my time here, my takeaway is this is an opportunity. It has been perhaps my greatest asset coming from the outside in being able to look at this department without the perspective of being part of it for 30 years and really asking questions and challenging that status quo that I talked about.
Do you think has the public kind of said to you, hey, we needed a guy from the outside, we're glad you're here because of that?
I have heard that at all levels, but not only have I heard that from the community, but most importantly for me, I've heard that from the rank and file, from the troopers, who've said that the troopers understand that we need to move forward. And if bringing in an outsider, I have felt that since the day I got here, that the troopers have felt welcome to that introspection, have felt welcome to an assessment from an outsider.
A couple other questions here on Karen Reed. She obviously can't be charged with any crimes she was acquitted of. Would you be in support of any new charges against her? And if that were to happen, what would your reaction be to that?
I would defer to the district attorney for any consideration on additional charges.
And there's speculation, and I understand this speculation is what it is, that she may be interested in filing a lawsuit against the Massachusetts State Police. What would your reaction to that be, and how how much would that affect what's going on here in a case which I'm sure you would like to just, put in the past, learn from, and move on?
Yeah, we are entirely focused on moving forward, but we are eyes wide open to learning and evaluating all of the incidents, the investigations that we are involved in, and learning from those takeaways and just looking forward. So I can't comment on how I would feel should she decide to exercise that.
And with the Proctor case, the testimony that he had and so the other troopers, you talk about learning from all of these investigations and things that happen in court. What came out of that you looked at and said, you know what, we got to improve on this area, that area specifically?
For me, the area that we have to have a never-ending resolve to address is simply the word accountability. That's what it comes down to. The Massachusetts State Police is committed to operating at the highest standards. I believe that in many areas we are operating at those standards, but it is our job, and I think it's my job in this moment, to ensure that we have a structure in place to ensure that our troopers across the Commonwealth, whether they're on patrol or they're working in a specialized unit, are holding themselves to the high level of accountability that we expect from our troopers. And my job is to make sure that we have the proper mechanisms in place as an organization.
Do you think there is a trust problem between the Massachusetts State Police and the residents of the Commonwealth?
Yes. There has been an erosion of public trust based on recent events. I am very focused on ensuring that we do our part, that we do everything we can to break down those barriers and bring back and earn that public trust back. But I also would note that I think that there's perceptions out there on a lot of these issues. And I also think that through our efforts and through being transparent, I'm really focused to connect with our community, not just the elected officials, the media certainly, but our community, our citizens. Break down these perceptions and so that we can focus on the areas that we need to work together on to come together, because I believe that we all want the same thing. This
is anecdotal, so it may not be fair, but I think people, when they get pulled over by a trooper or maybe they see one, there's a certain intimidation there. That, it's a state trooper, I don't know. Is that something you would like to work on and maybe have people feel more comfortable? Like, instead of saying, but there's a state trooper, oh, there's a state trooper, and I feel comfortable going up and conversing and interacting.
Yes, definitely. We have, and since I've been here, one of the 4 priorities I have is to increase our community outreach efforts. We have a job to do, and part of that job is to enforce the law, but it is imperative. And we are going to be very focused here to ensure that our communities see our troopers for who they are, which are partners, which are part of the community. We are not and should not take an approach where we are policing the public. Our job is to protect the public. And the only way we can do that is to do it together. We are partners with the public, and that's part of where that divide is. And I think that that's where our efforts are as we continue to connect with our communities to understand how we can do our part in educating and really showing the community who our troopers are.
So the excellent initiative you have, you're trying to do all these things, change the perception, be more transparent, build trust. Are you getting a warm reception from people who work here, sort of the rank and file? Are they on board with this? Has there been any reluctance or resistance, or do you find that everybody's ready to sort of say, you know what, it's time, let's do this?
Yes, one of the biggest takeaways I have from here, from my perspective and coming in, is the women and men of the Massachusetts State Police are eager to address this moment. No one in the Massachusetts State Police is running away from the tough questions. In fact, just the opposite. The women and men of the State Police are entirely committed to going towards the tough questions, to understanding that moment that we find ourselves in, and to move forward. I have not met with any resistance from inside this organization to do better and to work on these issues.
Let's pick a time arbitrarily 5 years from now. What do you hope people are saying about the Massachusetts State Police?
I hope that the residents of the Commonwealth of here in Massachusetts are saying that we are proud of the Mass State Police, that we are proud that this is an institution in Massachusetts that's been around for a long time and has an unbelievably good history. And our job, my goal, during my time here, and if you say 5 years, is that when people think of the Massachusetts State Police, they know that they're protected. They know that they have a police organization that is operating to the highest national standards, and most importantly, they have an organization that they can trust.
And attainable?
Absolutely. Absolutely.